All right, let's get right into it. We have this idea that words just disappear after we say them. But what if they don't? What if they have this hidden, lingering power that most of us completely underestimate? We're about to explore how just a few casual words can literally end up shaping someone's entire life.
Just take a second and let that one sink in. This is the whole idea in a nutshell, right? Words don't just evaporate, they find a place to land. And sometimes they decide to stay for a very, very long time. A silly joke, an offhand comment, it can echo for decades.
And this really drives that point home. I mean, think about it. Pick a powerful memory from your own life. Do you remember what the weather was like? What you were wearing? Maybe, maybe not. But I bet you remember the exact words that were spoken. That's because language becomes the anchor for our memories. Okay, so let's dig into this first section, this idea about the unique, almost magnetic power of a single sentence. It's funny, the bigger picture of an event can get all fuzzy over time, but certain phrases, they somehow stay in perfect focus. Isn't that wild to think about? You could have a 2-hour conversation, a whole evening with someone, but the one thing that gets recorded in permanent ink is that one single sentence that just cut a little too deep. It's like those words just bypass our brain's normal filing system and burn themselves into our hard drive. So why? Why does some comments hit us with the force of a tidal wave while others just roll right off? Well, it turns out it's not always about the words themselves. It's all about the psychological soil they land on, and this is where it gets really fascinating. This right here is the absolute key. A word's real power, its real sting, comes from its ability to confirm a fear we already have about ourselves. You know, that quiet little insecurity you carry around? A careless comment can feel like a giant, flashing neon sign confirming that your worst fear was true all along. And this is a perfect example of that. Look at how the exact same 4 words can have 2 completely different effects. If you're feeling secure, hearing "you're too much" is just confusing. You brush it off. But if you already have that secret worry that you're annoying, bam, it hits like a final judgment. It lands right in that pre-existing wound. This is exactly why that old excuse, "hey, I was just being honest," doesn't really work. Honesty is not a license to be careless. Our minds are way more sophisticated than that. We're not just processing the facts. We're analyzing the tone, the timing, our whole history with that person, the whole package. And of course, who is saying the words changes absolutely everything. A harsh comment from a stranger on the internet? Okay, it might sting for a minute. But as you can see here, the closer that person is to you, the more their words weigh. That same sentence from a parent, a partner? Whoa. We don't just hear those words, we absorb them. They become part of how we see ourselves. And that absorption, that's what leads us to this next part. This is where we get into the really long-term consequences, where we see how the words other people say to us, slowly and kind of tragically, become the voice inside our own head. So how does this actually happen? Well, it's a process. It all starts with one thing, an external word. That word causes a reaction in us. If it happens over and over, that reaction starts to become an internal script, an inner voice. And eventually, if that voice is loud enough for long enough, it solidifies into a core part of our identity. And you can see these patterns everywhere. A kid who's constantly told to quiet down doesn't just learn to be quiet in the moment. They might grow up into an adult who literally apologizes for having an opinion. It's a straight line from the language they heard as a child to the person they become. And that's the real gut punch of this whole thing. The criticism, the judgment, it starts as an outside force, but over time it becomes internalized. That person starts to police themselves with the exact same language they were raised on. The voice literally moves in and becomes a permanent roommate. So what's a person to do when they're constantly on the receiving end of hurtful language? Well, they adapt. They have to. They learn to build defenses. And in this next part, we're going to look at how our own words can become a kind of armor.
So when we're trying to protect ourselves, we usually go down one of 2 paths. Some of us take the quiet path. We learn to self-edit, to soften everything we say, to basically make ourselves smaller to avoid being a target. Others take the sharp path. They become guarded, they use sarcasm like a shield, and they stay on the offensive to keep people at a distance.
And it is so crucial to understand this. This armor isn't a character flaw, it's a survival strategy. It makes perfect sense.
If being soft and vulnerable in the past just got you hurt or rejected, then developing a harder, more protective tone feels like the only logical thing to do. It feels safe. But here's the good news. That armor isn't unbreakable. And the way through it isn't with more force, it's with the antidote. It's with intentional, kind, and validating words. So let's flip this around and talk about the solution. Ugh, we've all heard these, right? They're everywhere. And they're so damaging. But why? Because they do something much worse than just disagree with you. They invalidate your entire emotional reality. They basically tell you the way you're feeling is wrong. Now, on the flip side, you have words that do the complete opposite. These sentences are so powerful because they don't dismiss, they see. They don't try to fix you, they just affirm you. They say, I see you, and your experience is valid. That's it. And it's everything. And that's why this is so much more than just being nice. Think about it. For someone who has spent their entire life expecting to be criticized or dismissed, a calm, respectful, validating sentence is like a glitch in the matrix. It's a pattern interrupt. It can actually help break an old, painful script running in their head. And when you zoom out, you can see the whole cycle. The language we're exposed to becomes our memory of the world. That memory then shapes our expectations of the future. Our expectations then drive our behavior. And our behavior, well, that creates a reality. It's a massive feedback loop, and it's all powered by words. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the incredible dual power we've been talking about. The very same tool, a simple sentence, can either create a wound that someone carries for years, or it can be the private rescue they desperately needed to hear. So the big takeaway here is really about mindfulness. Just be careful with your words, because every single person you talk to is carrying their entire history of words with them into that conversation. You never know what old wound your careless comment might be pressing on. And that really just leaves us with one final, simple question to think about. Out of all the things you'll say today, which of your words will become someone's inner voice tonight?